Hey, how's it going? This is Rory from ratemyfuneral.com. That was rate, by the way. It's been a long time since the last tutorial. I know I've been incredibly busy, as I normally am, and one of the things I've been doing is coming up with a new look for myself. This is it. Whether it will stick, I don't know, but there you go. What we're going to do today is the light bulb thing. I'm just going to hop straight in and show you and talk to you about what I did. Okay, so those of you that follow the site will have seen this one here, which is the light bulb model. It was a speed breakdown. So I wanted to create a light bulb from scratch in less than an hour. So I set Camtasia recording and went for it. No practice or anything. I just made it. This is how it came out. I sped the whole video up so you can see it in super fast time. And it kind of just goes on a bit like this. Few people asked for a tutorial based on this. So I was always planning to kind of get round to this and doing this anyway. You can see here how it kind of ended up looking, or a rough idea, somewhere before the end. So yeah, so I always intended to do that anyway. But then recently, I saw in a magazine, you may have seen I posted it, I saw in a magazine this little fella here. So it was made in 3D Max, so I rebuilt it in Cinema 4D, and this is how it came out. I was really chuffed with that. And I put it on Facebook and Twitter, and it seemed to go down quite well, so I thought, well, I'll do a tutorial how to do all of it. But obviously it's going to be pretty long, so it's going to be multiple parts. So this is part one. We're going to cover just the bulb. Yeah, so let's hop on in and get on with it. Alright, let's see where we need to start. First thing we want is an image for the background. Now I just grabbed an image from Google. Let's see, we need to go to front view here, go to the options, configure, hit the dots in image, and then you can select your image there. And there we go, that's fine. So that gives us our bulb outline. And the way I'm now going to do this is with a Loft Nurbs. Just a quick thing on Loft Nurbs. I'll create a circle spline, put it onto the right plane, which is XZ. There we go. And now if I put that into a Loft Nurbs, which is here, like so, it just kind of fills it in for me. If I create a second circle and raise it, you can see kind of what's happening here. It basically creates the geometry. See, and I can move that around, maybe make it a bit bigger, make a copy, another one, move that up, make that a bit smaller, and then you've got some kind of weird vase thing. So that's the basic idea of Loft Nurbs. We'll start again. We'll grab a circle, put it on the correct plane, and now we want to put it up to the right point. Now, just so that we can see exactly what we're doing in here, I'm going to go to Options, Display, sorry, and do Gurad Shading with Lines. Gurad. Whatever. Just so that we can see what we're doing. So we've got our circle. We want to put that into a Loft Nurbs. Remember, if you've seen my other tutorials, you will know that you hold down Alt and highlight your thing, and it will automatically put the whatnot in there as long as it was selected. All right. So let's move our circle to the top. Now, because we're heading down, we want to actually click and drag, hold down Control, and make a copy downwards. All right, we can move that down and see, and we can now see what we've got going on here. Now, obviously the top one is far too big, so we're going to shrink that down. Press T, and we'll shrink that right down to somewhere about there. We might need to tweak this. Now we want to get a bit more curve in, so I'm going to create another one in between those two, and move that down a bit like so, and T, and stretch it out. Now you don't have to be 100% exact, because this the Loft Nurbs will fill in some of the curvature for you. So let's just start making our way down, following the edges of the bulb roughly. Space takes you to your last used tool, by the way, so I'm just literally pressing space to go back to the move to the pointer tool, and then T to go back to the scale tool, and we'll just keep following this. the more circles you do in here, the more geometry there will be, meaning the more detailed or the cleaner the bulb will look. I missed with that one, look. So I'm just going to undo. I could just drag it in there, but I'm going to do it again because then it gives it 8. So we can keep an eye on our circle names and keep them relatively logical. As you can see, we're slightly missing there, but it doesn't matter. We know it's something. We know it's symmetrical. That number 8, I think, needs to come in just a little bit. There we go. Cool. So that's our bulb. So let's name that glass. Lovely. Right, I'm just going to grab one of those circles out of there, like that, because we're going to use that in our base here. Here's a note, because this is over ever so slightly, I'm just going to go into the options, configure, and then here we have some controls for that image on the back. See, we can just shift it over just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so let's zoom in a bit so we can see what we're doing. We need to create another Loft Nurb. So we've got our circle, so we'll place that into another Loft Nurbs. We're going to just do the same thing, create copy. I'll tell you what, let's make that top one just ever so slightly bigger, just so it gives it a bit of a lip, and then move the next one down just a bit like that. And maybe make another one, move it down a bit. Right, we're going to want to start angling these a little bit now as well. So we press R and we can just put a bit of an angle on there, not too much yet. There we go. Make a copy of that. Now, obviously, because I've angled that, that's going to head off in that direction. I don't really want it to do that. I want it to keep going down straight. So what we can do is hit this button up here, which puts it to global positioning. So now, when we do that, we can continue going straight down, but it'll have the slight angle, which is what we want. So we'll just go to there, move that out a bit. Oops. I mean, this, for what we're doing today, this isn't hugely important because you won't even be able to see this part. Right. So I'll just get on with this rather than rabbiting. Or I can rabbit. Talk about nothing. No, I won't. I could do. This is one of those great bits where you just kind of wish you didn't have to do it. Right. We're nearly there. We're going to want to straighten her up in a moment. Put that down a little bit more. Right. Okay, so we're going to start to straighten her up. This one here. So if we want to put that back to level again, down here we can actually just zero that out. Bang, like that. And there we go. And just make sure it's just down a little bit. Grab another one and bring that down to the bottom here. Right, so that's the bottom of that one. I'm going to create this individually as well. So we'll do the same thing again. We'll grab the bottom circle, pull that out of there, and put that into a Loft Nurb. Hold down Alt. Hang on a moment. Oh, I made a mistake there. That's the problem with having such a big screen. I didn't even notice that happened because I'm looking all the way up here. I needed to copy that, not move it. There we go. Right, let's put that into the Loft Nurbs. Like that. Again, we'll just slightly increase it just to give it a bit of a lip. Create another one. Move that down to about there. Create another one. To about there. And we're going to go one more. Move that down to about there. Cool. Right. So there's our bulb, which looks good, although the top, let's just move up here and we'll have a look. Yeah, the top, see, is a bit funky look. We've got this kind of shape, and that's just our top circle. So what we want to do is just shrink that down till we can't see it. Gives us a little knobble. We can probably just maybe move it ever so slightly in. That'll do. You'll never see that unless you're really looking for it, I think. You might see it in... oh, blimey. Oops. Right. Cool. That'll do. So there's our bulb. Do you know what? I don't like the top there, actually. No. Let's not mess with it, because if we mess with it too much... Yeah, you can mess with something too much. Although that is wrong, actually. Let's just have a quick look. We'll get this right. Let's just make that a touch bigger. Move that back up to there. Actually, we'll make that a touch smaller. We need a couple more. That's what I think the problem. So I'll just create another one, move it down a bit, and stretch that out. Oh, I need a longer desk. There we go. Right, that's that fixed. Cool. Right. Zoom out. There we go. Right, so there's our bulb. Let's get some naming going on. So this bit we'll call screw bit. Hashtag screw bit. And this bit we'll call bottom bit. I don't know. I'm not actually an expert on light bulbs, to be fair. Righty then. Okay, so that's that bit done. Let's turn off the glass for the moment. We'll just click in there, hold down Alt, and it does both of them. Go back to this outer view. We want to create this gear on the inside now quickly. Okay, so this middle blob thing here, I'm just going to create using a cube. So let's just create a cube. And we'll put it roughly to where that thing is sitting. Can actually probably turn off, go back to lines on this one now, because we can see well enough, I think. So something like that. And obviously we want to make it a bit thinner. Oh, not that way though, it's this one. Cool. Okay, and if we just have a look in here, actually press S and that will zoom us in on the one we want. If I put display onto shading and lines, we can go to our segments, X, put in 3, and that will give us just a couple of lines there, which will make the next bit a bit easier. So we're going to make the cube editable by pressing C, and I just want to go in there and grab this top one, like that, and I'm going to press D for extrude, pull that up, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to press I, bring that one out, and then D to go up a bit further. Lovely job. Okay, so if we go up and have a look, we've created this shape up here. I am just going to, I think, so the best way to do this would probably be UL, select that one, then go back to ordinary pointer, select that one. Hold down shift when you do it. There we go. And press T, and just drag that one in a bit, something like that. Yeah, there we go. I just want a little lip, but not too much. Cool, okay. While we've got that selected, just for something a little bit later on, we go to select, set selection. What this does, it creates us a little tag there which remembers those polygons that we've selected. We're going to call that top bit. I like calling things bit. And it just means that when we come to texture it, we can texture that separately, really easily and quickly. Okay, next thing we want to do is put this inside Hypernurbs, which we'll zoom out a little bit. We'll see what happens here. So with the cube selected, we go Hypernurbs, go. Okay, so that started creating the kind of shape. And let's see, what we need to do is cut the edges into this shape. So we select the line mode, press K for the knife, highlight the cube. All right. Now by default the knife is on line mode, so hit K again and you'll get your options down here. So we want to set it to loop, and we just want to turn off restrict to selection because we don't want it to restrict to the selection. So let's Just give these a few cuts. Basically, we're just telling it where to put an edge. At the moment it's a bit roundy, you see, so something like that. There we go. Cool. Okay. And the thing it's got here, there's a circle cut out of it. Now, if you're cutting out squares, cut them out with knife tool and all that's fine. But if you're doing circles, better off using a bool tool. So let's put the cylinder we've just created into, I think it said plus, and move that down to the middle, something like that. Just change that shape. Length's fine. It's, there we go, rotate round, something like that. Cool. Okay, so we're going to use that to cut a hole. So cylinder, ball, hold down Alt, there we go, and we'll place the Hypernurbs inside there. And there we go. You can see we've cut the hole and we've got our shape. Cool. Okay, so we'll call that inner glass thing. Right, okay, so the next bit we need to do is create these lines here. So we'll do this in this view. I'm just going to basically draw all of these using splines, and then we're going to spline wrap to get some geometry on them. So I'll show you exactly what I mean. Let's create a Bezier spline. Looking at this, it starts somewhere down here. And we want to just sort of create a bit of a shape. Something like that. Cool, that's one. We'll select it again to create a new one. So starting off about there. Cool. Okay, so that's our two outer side ones. And then we've got two at the top here, so we'll do another Bezier and maybe start there. Just come over, something like that. Same thing again. Get a bit of a funky shape going on. Okay, so that's that one. Then we've got these two that are sticking out at the top here. So I'll create a new one. Give these a bit of a wobble. Now these have got a kind of loop shape in them, so we'll just draw that in 2D for now, and then we'll go and move the points in the third, in the outer window, undo that, create a new one. Okay. Oops. There we go. Right, so we can fine tune all that once that's done. Actually, we'll do that now a little bit. So let's just move these about a bit. I mean, they don't have to be exactly on where they are on the image here, but it's a good guide. If you want to move these handles, grab the move tool, and there we go, we can make those a little bit more circular. There, cool. And this one over here. Oh, that one looks pretty cool like that. I might be just bend that around there. Okay, cool. All right, and we have one more to create, which is this helix type shape. Well, a helix is what I'm going to use for it anyway. So just going to go to splines, create a helix. By default, that's coming towards us, so we need to move that to the ZY plane. I'm going to place it, this start about there, which is where that starts. And down here, the height, I'm going to pull that in, that's going to be to about there. And then the start radius, let's just bring that down to about 5. And the end radius, also 5. Cool, okay, and basically it's this end angle is our important one, so we're just going to ramp that right up. There we go. Now 5 is probably a bit too much actually, so let's just put them down a bit, so that looks about right. I do want to have it, I want it to have a bit of a bend. So this helix, I am going to add a bend object. Now I'm going to hold down Alt so that the helix goes inside the bend, but that's only so that the bend centers itself to the helix. I'm now going to take the helix out and put the bend in the helix. Okay, now hopefully you can see what's going on here, but there's our bend shape. So I'm just going to bend it like that, just so we can see exactly where we're aiming. So we want to just shrink the bend down a little bit. That way it doesn't really matter too much. I'm going to rotate the bend like so, and just go for a bit more, something like that. I don't want it too perfect, you see, so that looks pretty much right. So let's put that to about where it should go. There we go, cool. All right, so now if we just go back out and have a look at what we've got here, we can actually just hide that bend if we turn that up. There we go, we can see. Now we've created the wiring, which is cool, but obviously if you render it you won't see anything. That's because they're just splines and they need a spline wrap to actually show you the geometry. So we can do this quite easily now. On the first spline we go to here and we go sweep Nurbs, is what I meant to say, not spline wrap, sweep Nurbs. Right, put it in, hold down Alt, there we go. Hasn't done anything yet, it's because it needs another spline to reference. So we're going to create a circle and place that in the sweep Nurbs. Now, obviously that circle's far too fat, so we're going to shrink that down with T, like that. There we go, that's lovely. So that looks more or less, I'll just shrink it down just a little bit more, it looks more or less about the right thickness. Now one thing here is there's a hell of a lot of geometry, so by the time we start doing all of these, we're going to, the PC is going to be really struggling. So what you can do is go into the circle, down to the immediate points, and actually just put this angle number up. And you can see that takes away some of those lines. So I'm just going to go for about 42. Seems to be a fairly good number. We can get in quite close, but it's still plenty of geometry there. Cool, so we've got that. Now we move to the next spline and create a sweep Nurbs. Hold down Control and drag the circle into it. And that copies that one into there, and as you can see that's done that fine. We can do the same thing here, sweep Nurbs, put the circle in, bang, that's the top. Same one here, sweep Nurbs, put the circle in, boom. This one, these are the wires, so we can do the sweep Nurbs, put the circle in, but we do want to make the circle a little smaller for the wires. There we go, so they're just little thin things. And we'll do the same with this one, sweep Nurbs, boom, and put the circle in. There we go. So that one's looking pretty good. And finally the same thing with the helix, sweep Nurbs and put the circle in, boom. So now if we have a look at that, we've got some stuff going on. That circle in the helix I am going to shrink down a little bit. There we go. Cool. Lovely. Right. So that is our bulb created. So let's close up all our sweep Nurbs. I'm going to put those all into a group. So hold a lot of them, highlight a lot of them, press Alt and G. It puts them into a null. And we'll call this wiring. Cool. So we've got our various bits there. So we now just need to texture our bulb. Naturally, this is where my product placement comes in, because you can light the scene, add a light, go in there, set it, give it a shadow of some form, and so on and so forth, and do all the lighting like that. But then you have to create a scene, create the reflections, do all of that sort of stuff. That's why I created in video. So I'm just going to use that. Alright, okay, so Infidio Pro is the one I'll use, and we'll just dump that into the scene, and that gives us our studio. A couple of quick notes about Infidio. I've got a new version, or an update coming out really soon to 1.2, which just gives us a little bit more, a few little tweaks, but one of the things is it changes the default color from the blue to white, because I'm finding I do that every single time I change it to white. Okay, so now with just that, we can see that we've got some lighting now, which is good. So it just makes texturing a lot easier. So let's get texturing. So the glass first, we'll start with. Double click down here, and then it creates a material. We double click to go into it. We're going to call it glass. For the glass, I'm going to turn the color off because that will speed up rendering. We want to put on transparency and put that to probably about something like 96 or 06 or 96. There we go. Refraction, probably something like 1.1. This is probably going to take a little bit of tweaking to work out. Reflection, yeah, we'll have loads of reflection, that's fine. Specular, we don't really need. That's probably good for the glass, so we'll do that, and we'll place that onto our glass. One thing is, when rendering glass in cinema, the standard render is pretty slow. So what I do like to do is go in and change to the physical renderer and put it to progressive. And the way that works is it renders from the top to the bottom, and it kind of goes through roughly and then goes through again, tweaks it and just makes it a little bit better. Each time it goes through, it just makes it a little bit better, and it will go for it until you tell it to stop. So it's kind of a good way of getting an idea of things. Now here's another little thing with Infidio. When you're dealing with glass, by default you get this you get a reflection of the black area, which obviously you don't want when you're dealing with this sort of thing. Now in the new update there'll be a button just to turn it on, but for now if you just go to the background, the BG, the compositing tag, and turn on scene by rays, you will notice then that the glass looks much more realistic. Well, it's getting there anyway, so that's how we're doing that. Okay, so the next bit we'll do is the let's do the screw bit. So we'll just create a new texture. We want something like that's quite reflective, maybe something like that. They are quite reflective and they're bumpy, so we'll put a bump layer on. A noise, go into that, and let's change that to something like Luca. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Maybe shrink the textures down a little bit in the global scale. Go to the bump and just turn that down. Something like 12. It's another one where you have to kind of have a bit of trial and error. So that's the screw bit. We'll make a copy of that and go in there, and we're going to make this black, and this is going to make up our bottom bit. I want to turn off a lot of the reflection there, something like that. Maybe give this a touch of Fresnel. There we go. Right, and that's going to be our bottom bit, the conductor bit. Let's see, we want to go inside and do the other bit, so we'll just turn the glass off for the minute. We'll zoom in. Okay, so this bit was kind of like glass, so I think I'm going to create a copy of the glass texture and actually turn the transparency down a bit, turn the reflection right down. Something like 2 for the refraction. Maybe we will add a bit of colour to this, maybe a bit more transparency, something like that. We'll call this in a bit, just so we know the difference, and we'll put that on that. I think that should be right. I want to be able to see these. Let's just have a quick look, see if we can actually see these. Yeah, that's what I want to be able to see, is those wires. Cool. I think this might be a bit reflective, but the whole studio might be a bit bright. Actually, I might turn it down a little bit. So the wiring is left. So I'll create wire color. Let's just do something like this. Reflection, put a Fresnel on it. Don't think this is too important really, because this is going to be so unnoticeable. Let's go into that noise. We'll set that to Luca as well. Scale something like 20. This isn't really worth worrying about too much. Right, there we go. We'll put that on all of the wiring. Let's actually jump in there and just make sure that that's on there. We can click and drag and hold control and just repeat that onto all of them. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit now, and we'll turn on our glass. The Infinity Studio, I am going to, well, let's just have a quick look, see what it does look like. Yeah, I think it's just a bit bright. So perhaps if we raise all the lighting a bit, let's just zoom out a bit so we can see what's going on. Raise the lighting a bit, maybe turn the hair light down. Key light down a bit, and then the fill light, just turn them all down a little bit. And what happens if we put on some ambient occlusion as well? Yeah, it's not looking too bad. Oh, where's it gone? Oh, there it is. Okay, so this was the sort of thing I was looking at before. There we go. Something I do like to do is, just because of the fact that we've got lots of glass on here, global reflection settings in Infidio, we can actually go to our content browser, because it comes with other studios. This one here, Studio 2, has lots of windows in it, so I quite like the way that all the different windows reflect from it. So there we go. That's looking quite good. Right, so that's the bulb done. And basically, we're going to create the little bulb on a bike thing. But because it's going to take so long to do, I'm going to do this in parts. So this is going to be part 1. We've created the bulb. And then in part 2, we'll create the bike and the extra bits and texture it. And hopefully get everything else done. And yeah, that should just about cover it, I reckon. Okay, so thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have fun with your bulbs, and I'll see you in part 2 real soon. Okay, bye bye.